ever noticed that if you eat certain foods, you crave even more food? Well, a new study finds that it's all in your head. Literally, researchers say some carbs activate the reward center in your brain, leaving you wanting more.
Well, joining us right now is nutritionist Elizabeth DeRobertis, director of the Nutrition Center at Scarsdale Medical Group. Thanks for being here. Elizabeth, interesting story. We kind of talked about it a little bit before we went on the air. The reaction that some people get in their brain to eating certain carbs is very similar to what a drug addict goes through. This is powerful stuff.
Yeah, that's correct. And I see it in my practice all the time. There are definitely patients who feel a true addiction to certain foods, and usually they're foods that are refined carbohydrates.
Hard to control it.
It's impossible to control. So for some people, I may be able to recommend that they have a 100-calorie pack of, let's say, cookies. While other patients, if they have that one pack, it turns into 3 or 5 packs because they can't control it, because it's really a true food addiction.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know, if it is an addiction, should you cut it out of your life completely? Because there are that small minority of people who can have just one Oreo. Who are these people?
And you're right, they are in the minority. So some people do, unfortunately, need to completely eliminate some refined carbohydrates. So no one needs to smoke, no one needs to do drugs, but we do need to eat. So that's why the food addiction part is sometimes even harder to conquer. But some people are better completely avoiding the foods that they know for them are triggers.
So, Elizabeth, here's the question. Are we actually hungry, you know, for the food, or is it just the craving that we're dealing with?
Okay, and that's a good question, and that's what the study that just came out was actually supporting, the fact that for certain foods, especially refined carbohydrates, they may trigger a rise in blood glucose. In response, someone's body may overproduce insulin, and then their blood sugar crashes back down. So that food is not as physically satisfying, but it also leaves them with a feeling of an urgency to eat. So it's a combination of hunger and a draw to eat these certain foods very quickly.
You know, are some of those trigger foods that cause these cravings different for every person? Because I know Ernie likes ice cream. I like salty, like potato chips.
Well, we all have something.
It is true that most people have, you know, they have different things that trigger them, but for the most part, a more nutrient-dense food is less likely to trigger a craving. So if someone's eating things like Greek yogurt and cottage cheese and fruit, they can normally control their portions of those foods. So it's usually the foods that are not as nutrient-dense that are more likely to trigger.
So like we like potato chips and things like that, right?
Right.
Those are the ones you're talking about that we have to try to avoid.
And I call it the maximum potential damage. When you start to eat out of a bag of something like that, very often we're putting ourselves at risk of having 2,000 calories.
Right.
It's a lot of calories in one place with a very addicting type of food.
But you're saying we probably are better off with something like a hard-boiled egg or, you know, along those lines?
I think that for weight loss, we want to think about where we're spending our calories. And that if you were going to spend calories, 100 calories on chips, it's not going to hold you over. It's not going to make you feel full. It's going to leave you wanting more chips. But if you spent that same 100 calories on a small bag of almonds or a hard-boiled egg, it's going to hold you over a lot longer.
Got to work at this, don't you?
Yeah, and even alcohol can play a part too, right? It lowers your inhibitions.
Absolutely. A lot of people really let their guard down, especially they've spent calories on alcohol and now they spend too many calories on food because they drank too much.